last week on the Al Nicoletti Show. Let's welcome him to the show. Brad Bone, there he is. How you doing, man?
There's conversions we're watching. We have what we call a Dams in the River meeting every Monday. We think of the process from marketing money spent to revenue in as like a river. So it starts with you're spending a certain amount of money, and then there's conversions all the way downstream. Like, how are we doing this week, and what lever do we need to pull to win the week?
What have you noticed that you've learned from of the mistakes that you've made on deal analysis or getting into deals, and what would you do differently?
When you're light on lead flow, it's easy to become risky. And so you got to be aware of that. Because you're tempted to become risky just to get more deal flow. Over time, as you grow as a business owner, there's sometimes a tendency to want to make a deal happen for someone else rather than, is it really right for our business? I would fall into that temptation sometimes where an acquisition guy's excited about it. I'm just like, well, there's something in my gut doesn't love this thing, but let's just do it because I don't want him to be disappointed. And ultimately it serves everyone if we have just great standards on what is a deal and what isn't.
Doing that deal analysis is very important to determine what is a deal. How do you protect yourself in a down market?
Buy stuff deeper, give yourself options to maybe wholesale if you need to, come up with a lot of extra exit strategies. Don't go in with one extra strategy, and be prepared for holding that property longer than you think.
Well, Brad, awesome stuff. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks, Al.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another Wednesday night in the Al Nicoletti studio. As you all can see, we are in studio for this episode, and I am so excited for the guest that we have on the show today. If you missed any of the episode last week, you got to go back. You got to go check it out. Every guest that comes on the Al Nicoletti Show provides so much value to everybody out there, and you can get so much from these episodes that you can start applying today and get out there, get these deals, and make things happen. And of course, scan the QR code at the top of the screen. That's where you're going to get all of our content on social media, whether it's YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. You got to find all the content on probates, quiet titles. Probate's the hottest thing going on right now. You want to find more about it? Follow us there. That's where you're going to find all the content. And I am so excited whenever we get to have an in-person guest on the Al Nicoletti Show. It's a special episode. So I'm ready to get started. So let's rock this thing. Hey, everybody. My name is Al Nicoletti. I'm an attorney here in Florida. And welcome to the Al Nicoletti Show, where I bring on real estate super investors, rising rock stars, movers and shakers, and leaders of clubs in their communities that educate, entertain, and inspire all things on Florida real estate, and always bringing the best in the game, no matter what market they're in, no matter what state, industry, real estate adjacent, land, wholesaling, branding, marketing, you name it. We want to provide the best guests on how you can take your company to the next level. On our show today, we are live in studio, in the Al Nicoletti studio, in person. And for those of you that watch the show, you know that anytime we do an in-person episode, it's a special one because we get to sit down with the guests in the studio and really break down what's going on. And on our show today, we got the man, the myth, the legend, Sam G, the local legend investor, killing it in the sales game, killing it in real estate. And we love what he's working on the ground level because we want to learn more from Sam G on what is happening in operations and business, what's happening in sales, and what you can do to scale your business. And I'm excited to have him on the show today. So without further ado, let's welcome him to the show. Sam G. Sam, brother, what's up, man?
Nice to be here, man.
Yes.
What an intro.
Yeah, man, just for you.
I appreciate that. Well, I'm glad to be here. Thank you for the invite. I love the studio. It looks amazing.
Thank you.
I really appreciated the call. I really appreciate to be here. I hope I can provide as much value to your viewers as possible. That was a very warm introduction, man. I love the part where you say, I introduced the movers and the shakers. I think that's the most important part in the real estate industry is to kind of come in and make things move and shake, where
Yes.
you disrupt the industry almost.
Yes, yes. And it's so funny because when I came up with the intro for the show, I was thinking, what are the core tenets to the people that we're looking to have on the show? And when I was going through the community leaders and movers and shakers, I'm thinking, oh, these are all people that are leveling up their game, doing big things in real estate. And I know you're killing it in real estate. And we have a crazy backstory on the first probate deal that we worked on together.
Yes.
Before we dive in that, for those that don't know, who's Sam G? How did you get into the real estate game, and what are you working on today?
Yeah. So I don't want to bore everybody with too much bio of me, but essentially I moved to Florida about 4 years ago from California. I used to be a tour guide back there, and I used to take people to celebrities' houses.
Wow.
So I was one of the first people in LA that made deals with a lot of these houses, and I would get people inside the houses, not just show them the gates. And one of the most iconic homes in Beverly Hills is called Greystone Mansion. It's also the American Film Academy. That's where they filmed a lot of the movies like X-Men, Spider-Man. That's like the X-Men school.
Yeah.
So essentially, I was able to get people inside the house there too. And that tour took off. So it became the number 2 tour company in the whole town of LA in less than a year. And it was pretty much all done through reviews and online presence on TripAdvisor. But then when COVID hit, everything kind of shut down. All the tourism industry and everything went down the drain. But before that, before COVID even happened, I had property management lady who used to manage a really large apartment complex that just popped up in Hollywood. And our salespeople, like the people that worked in my organization alongside with me, we were all selling most of the tickets before we were online on the streets. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where I started hustling and learning what sales is all about. Is just coming up to strangers and, selling them something that's better than what they have right now.
Yeah.
Which was, I don't know if you've been to Hollywood, but Hollywood has turned into a complete mess. It's very dirty, a lot of homeless people asking for money on every corner. So our tour was something different where they see the actual beauty of the city of Los Angeles. So that was the first sale that I was ever doing. And it was all on the street. So street vending. Mm-hmm. And the lady that was the manager for that really large building, she one day came outside and she got in a fight with my business partner about us vending on the street in front of her building. Even though it was a public road, she claimed that, it's her building and that interferes with her tenants and stuff like that. And we just argued. And then I learned that arguing is not always the best negotiation strategy.
Yes.
And it also proved to me that a lot of the times being right is not the cheapest way of doing things. So when we argued the next day, I had the sheriff come down along with like 4 or 5 cop cars. Mm-hmm. And we got citation after citation.
Wow.
Long story short, I got 14 tickets, and it was all 14 misdemeanor tickets.
Whoa.
Yeah. So, and it was all for just street vending, even though the entire Hollywood Boulevard is street vending.
Yeah, yeah.
But they just targeted me. And I took it to court. I hired a lawyer. We fought the case. They dismissed everything. So luckily, nothing has happened. But it cost me a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I wish that I just never took that route and just took everything online instead. Because sometimes there's a smarter way that, if you take out your ego out of the equation and you just think the smart way and what's going to get you the best result, it's not always fighting.
Right.
So long story short, what I thought to myself is like, hey, with one phone call, this lady has almost messed my entire life up. What is it that gives her so much power? And the reality was that she owned a really large, or she was managing a very large building in Hollywood. And to me, that was like, oh, okay, so I need to be in a bigger asset 'Cause
Yeah.
selling tickets on the street might not get me far.
Right.
So that's kind of what got my mind into real estate, and I started learning. And my goal still up to today is to buy that building and fire her as a property manager.
Still right on your
Yes.
mind, right? Coming right
Yes.
after it.
But essentially, that's how I made my move to Florida. I bought a fourplex here. I moved into one of the units, started renovating it, and then started moving into the other units, renting them out, and kind of house hacked my first investment like that.
Wow.
Here.
Amazing. And then from there, you guys are doing wholesaling. You guys are doing probably some buy and holds and fix and flips and, a little bit of everything. And, Sam, like what you've been doing lately with getting into the game and being a part of the sales is what do you see in the market right now that a lot of investors aren't paying attention to that you're seeing? Like what does everybody need to be like aware of with the market?
Yeah. So one of the biggest things is, not having one exit strategy, because when you just have one exit strategy, like a lot of people say they're wholesaling, right? Most of the time I see wholesale operations, they are only doing one exit, which is cash offers, right? And if you're not doing multiple exit strategies and you don't have them in your back pocket and you don't know how to utilize them, you'll just lose. Because I'll beat you in every single conversation with the seller, because I can either offer more or close on a better timeline than you can. I can solve problems that you can, because your cash offer doesn't allow you to do that, because I might be able to take over somebody's mortgage or even buy their deed and then try to figure out the rest later. So you just have to be very well versed into what different exit strategies I can apply in order to solve people's problems. Because at the end of the day, this business is not really about buying boxes with roofs on it. It's about solving problems. If you're not solving problems, you're not going to last very long in the business.
Yeah, and I love how that you're doing that. You're diversifying the way you're going about this and trying to solve the problems. And you're not just picking one strategy. You're picking multiple possibilities. So in any given market, in any given down market, you can pivot in the right direction and still be protected, which is one of the questions I usually ask guests about. How do you protect yourself in that down market? And that's really you making sure you're diversified in this. Right. And Sam, one thing that I think a lot of people need to pay attention to is you got to follow Sam G on Instagram and Facebook. This guy, he's posting the best sales Instagram reels and videos out there that I've seen, and they're hilarious too, and they're real. That's what makes it so real. Sam, you got to talk about sales 101 for a lot of people, because I think a lot of investors, real estate agents, everybody hears about deals and contracts and closings, but then there's this other half of the business where it's you got to negotiate, you got to talk to people, you got to be able to explain it and sell and find that working ground with sellers. Break down sales 101 in Sam G's way of what do people need to know about sales that they really need to fine tune on to get these deals.
Yeah. So there's two concepts that I live by. The first concept is there's not a single thing that you can say on a phone call that will mess up a transaction. Not a single thing. You can cuss the other person out. You can say that their political view is complete garbage. You can say anything that you want, any one thing that you want, and it will not mess up a transaction. As long as you're real and as long as you know what you're talking about and where you're taking that conversation. However, that doesn't mean there isn't a multitude of things that you can say that will not mess up a transaction. So the reality is that you just have to be extremely authentic when you're on the phone, because in today's environment, everybody's getting bombarded with cold calls, different VAs that are calling them, U.S. people that are calling them. I mean, it's just nonstop soliciting to people. So how do you stand out? And the way you stand out is you just interrupt the pattern and you just say something obnoxious or crazy that gets their attention, and then you recover from it. But if you go to watch some of the reels that I post, you will see a lot of them. I say crazy stuff, and then people still sign with me. I think there was one call where I called the seller a dumbass. And, he said, "Oh, I already signed the agreement at the end." And it was an analogy that I was given, but at the end of the day, it's like that's what it took to get that guy to sign the agreement. And you have to say the obnoxious, crazy things. Now, I'm not saying you have to go and just be rude to people and just out of blue just call them names. It has to be all in the context. But you can say those things. And then the second thing is people want to buy, but they don't want to be sold to, right? So it's a very important concept. People want to buy, but they don't want to be sold to. Meaning, if you appear as a salesperson, or if they sense like, oh, this guy has a lot of interest vested and he's just trying to sell me on something, there's immediately a big barrier between the two parties. So instead of that, you just have to take yourself outside of the shoes of a salesperson, in my opinion. So in our industry, we're real estate buyers. So there's a huge difference, in my opinion, from a real estate buyer and a real estate salesperson, somebody who's just trying to get a sale. Because if you're a real buyer, a true buyer, you're going to talk very differently. You might point things out that a salesperson wouldn't because they want to please the seller. But the buyer would point them out, and the salesperson wouldn't. So those are the two concepts that, especially if you watch some of the full calls that I have, you'll see and you'll notice that I say obnoxious stuff and people still sign agreements, and actually at a higher rate than probably anybody out there in the industry. Like my lead to contract ratio is 1 out of 6.
Wow, that's really good.
1 out of 6 phone calls that I have, or 1 out of 6 conversations that I have, there is a signed agreement.
Yeah.
And then the fact that I'm not selling people. I have them sell me because I have the cash. I'm buying their property, so they have to sell me. And they want to buy my service of me buying their house. So I have to put myself in that position when I'm talking to them. So those are the two key components, in my opinion, that makes a big difference.
Yeah, and I feel like as an investor, you got to wear both hats, right? You got to wear the sales and the real estate side to really have that conversation. But what you're really talking about is being authentically you, right? Be authentically you. You like having these conversations because this is you doing the business with these people, like, and making these deals happen. And I really believe in that concept of not selling, right? You're not selling people, you don't want to come off that way. You want to come off authentically as you. And so that is selling when you're able to do that in that approach. And I think that's the stuff that works, like you're talking about. And I just love the videos too. Like I remember the fire damage video of the guy that thought that property was worth way more. And you were like, listen, this thing is down to the studs. I mean, there's no way we're going to be able to do a rehab.
There's just ashes left.
Yeah, it's ashes. This is not a rehab. This is a total tear down, right? Yeah. So the way that you've been able to walk through some of these, like, I think the best examples that people can take away from Sam G are the phone calls and actually seeing them walk through sellers and all of that. Sam, another thing that is big with you, and you guys have the podcast, All Leads Suck, and I had a blast being on that episode with you guys. It was so fun, is a lot of people think that all leads suck, that the leads all suck. Talk to us about the brutal truth about why people are not closing deals because of these types of leads.
It's because people suck. The concept of all leads suck is it's kind of like a funny way of saying it, but it's essentially a sarcastic way of saying people suck and not the leads, because all leads are equally bad. It's what you do with those leads and how you process them and what exit strategies you have to offer to the leads that are coming into your business, right? So essentially, the reality is most people are looking for a magic way to get a deal. And most people feel like there's a secret sauce, and the secret sauce is it's PPC, or it's mailers, or it's cold calling and hiring a VA, or I have to do TV ads. The reality is all those channels work. It's a matter of, are you hitting the KPIs for that particular channel? And are you doing a good job as a closer when those leads come in to your system? And that's all that matters. most people don't do enough in order for them to even hit the KPIs or figure out how they can measure their success because they give up too early. And that's the definition of people suck, is just they give up. That's why, I don't know the exact statistic, but probably about 95% of people who get into real estate acquisitions, whether it's wholesaling or being a real estate agent or being a fix and flipper, 95% of them fail. You don't see the failures. Most of the time, you just see the successes, like when you're scrolling through Instagram and you see somebody got a $10 million listing or something like that.
Yeah.
But people don't talk about failures. And people fail because they give up. You can't fail if you don't give up and you just continue on and you hit your KPIs and you continue to improve and you just don't believe in the fact that it's something about the external factors.
Got it.
And instead you believe it's something about me. What do I have to change in me in order for me to start closing and stop whining?
Got it. Yeah. And a lot of people aren't focused on the follow-up game, right?
Correct.
And I think the follow-up game is where the real money can be. And I even see that on our side, on a business law firm side, that when you do your follow-up to leads, eventually, wait a second. Oh, yeah, we've been meaning to get back to you. We've been meaning to talk to you, but you would have never gotten to that next step.
Yeah.
But for following up. So what does your follow-up game look like? How have you guys dialed that in to make sure that these leads are producing over and over? Because if your conversion with phone calls is 1 out of 6, I can imagine your follow-up game is probably that, if not even better, because you can pick up the things that most people are not.
Yeah. Follow-up is probably 70% of everything. The 30% is like one cold closes. Somebody called in, they have a super quick problem, and
Right.
you give them a quick solution, and they're ready to go. But it's not going to happen in most cases. And then the rest is all follow-up, right? So what you have to do is, we realized this about 2 years ago. If you give follow-up to employees or salespeople or whoever, almost every time people drop the ball. There's just no way around it. People get sick. People take vacations. People go to events, and they're out for a lunch break or whatever the case is, right? And the ball is dropped somewhere. So what we've done as of 2 years ago is we've developed a system using talking AI and texting AI that follows up with all of our leads. The system's called AI Speakly. I think you've seen it once or twice.
Yes.
And it's just an acquisition bot that talks like a human, texts like a human. Matter of fact, we even programmed it to be like a charming Southern Texas lady.
That's great.
Yes, because it's just like when we run a lot of those tests, we figured out, okay, well, first of all, people want to talk to women. They don't want to talk to men. And second of all, they want to talk to somebody who has a little bit of a character to them. So it's a Southern Texas, like mid-40s lady. And like it's dialed in down to all those details, and that AI is doing all the follow-up. So what would happen is I might have a conversation with somebody, make them an offer, and they're not ready to go at that number yet, right? So they want 200,000. I offered them 120,000, and all the exit strategies I offered didn't work for them. Okay, great. You're not ready to sell to me. We'll talk to you in 30 days. So we put them in a stage called dead. And 30 days from that day, the AI will follow up with that individual and then call, text, and email that individual to try to get them back on the line and transferred over to me. And the follow-up is just like, hey, just checking in to see if you sold your house. If you haven't, are you still interested in an offer? And then, yes, I am. Okay, great. Let me grab my manager, transfer over to the office. Hey, Scott. Haven't heard from you in about a month. What happened? I thought you were going to sell your house.
Yeah.
And then there's your second conversation there.
Amazing. So really implementing AI and these follow-up strategies has been working for you.
Yes.
And also, while we're on that topic of AI, 2025 and beyond, how do you see and what do you recommend for investors to really tap into with AI for implementing it in their real estate business? Is it just for the follow-up game, or is there more where you can see AI having a bigger role for scaling out a business, or maybe making it efficient with costs and overhead? Where do you see AI's future with real estate investing?
So I want to make this super clear. If you are not using AI in your business in 2025 and forward, you will completely die as a business. There's absolutely no chance of you surviving in the current environment, because AI is going to replace 80% of all tasks that everybody's doing today, whether it's texting, calling, emailing people, doing the follow-up for you, even drafting a lot of the paperwork that lawyers are doing right now. We use AI practically for everything we can. We have GPTs that we create every day. We have one called Legal Docs GPT. All of our addendums, all of our contracts, everything gets run through it to be reviewed first before we send it out to anybody. If we need to draft a new amendment or something else, we run it all through GPT Legal Docs.
Wow.
And it's just a complete game changer. In like 5 seconds, it gives you everything that you needed. Now, it's not perfect. You still have to review, and you still have to add certain things to it, but it saves so much time.
Yeah.
So if I have 16 hours in a day and you have 8 hours in a day, because now I'm able to do so much more with AI, and it's kind of adding time to my day, I'm going to beat you every time in business.
Yeah.
So you have to use AI. There's just no question about it.
Yeah.
Either you adapt or you die.
Yeah. Oh, I love that answer. Yeah, because I mean, I've seen so many people lately at masterminds and meetups really talk about how you got to dial into these prompts. You got to start realizing how to use these prompts, whether it's for coaching programs, for follow-up game, for like you're talking about like your software, AI Speakly, like using this to scale out the business, to replace a lot of the tasks like texting or emailing or doing email newsletters. And so the more I've heard about it in the last couple months, the more I'm like, wait a second. I feel the same way. I feel like if you don't get on this train now, or at least start learning how to implement it, it's going to be really hard later, because you're going to be spending hours upon hours and, doing this kind of stuff. You don't want to be doing that. You want to be utilizing your time well. And who doesn't want to save on expenses and time when you can have things like that implemented in your business? It's really a great point. Sam, getting creative on deals is something I know that you love talking about as well. And there's a lot of people doing conventional buy and holds and Airbnbs, but one thing that I know is you guys love getting into sub-2s or novations. And what are you finding that you guys are seeing out there with the sub-2 and novations that can help shed a light to a lot of people?
Yeah. So novations is probably 60% of our business right now. And that's what allowed us to scale to where we are right now, because we do on average about 18 to 22 deals every single month. And half of them at least are novation transactions. Now, they're not in Jacksonville, or they're not all in Jacksonville. They're mostly scattered throughout a few states. So we do deals in Alabama, Texas, Georgia, Missouri, and then a couple other states like Tennessee and Virginia. But long story short, novations are kind of like an unknown, especially to the wholesaling world, because a lot of people don't even believe it works. This is the easiest way to describe a novation agreement. So when you have a wholesale transaction, you sign an agreement with the seller, and then you go find your buyer, and you'll sign the same agreement that you have with the seller over to that buyer. And now the buyer becomes the owner of the original agreement that you signed with the seller, and they agree to all the terms that were in that original agreement. Now, you make the difference between what you assigned the contract for and what the purchase price of that contract was. With the novation agreement, it's a different concept. And the reason novations are used typically is because novation fees are treated kind of as a lien on a property and not like a commission or an assignment fee. So when the title company writes novation fee on the HUD, it's treated as a lien that has to be paid off. And because it's treated that way, it qualifies for conventional lending, meaning Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae loan providers are able to finance all those fees. Whereas in an assignment deal, the buyer has to bring the entire sum to the closing in most cases. So the novation agreement, the reason it's treated that way is because when you sign an original agreement with the seller, you don't assign that agreement. You sign a separate agreement, and that separate agreement is now not between you and the seller, but between the seller and the new buyer directly. So you replace yourself as an original buyer with a third-party purchaser. And now the third-party purchaser is going to be purchasing the property directly from that seller, and the seller is transferring title directly to that third-party purchaser, and you simply get paid the novation fee in between. And people a lot of the times confuse novations with the fact that, oh, you can put it on the market. You can do a novation agreement and not have to put anything on the market. The difference is when you do a novation agreement, usually you also have what's called an authorization to market or attorney in fact signed along with your purchase and sale agreement. And that's what allows you to put the property on the market, because you can have a regular wholesale deal and still put it on the market with an authorization to market. But you can't really finance that transaction or finance your assignment fee. So because we're able to tap into the pool of buyers that are getting loans, the purchase prices are retail purchase prices. And we get deals for a little bit more than what the wholesale prices are, and sometimes even at wholesale numbers. And then we just solve those problems for the sellers, whether it's small repairs, cleaning, or not doing a lot of showings, or whatever the case is. But that's the difference between wholesale and novations. And an average, like a lot of people don't like to talk about numbers. I don't mind revealing any numbers. So if you need
Go for it. Let's hear it. Yeah. Numbers revealed by Sam G here.
So an average wholesale transaction is about $14,000. An average novation transaction is about $25,000.
Big difference.
Yes. Now, our average transaction fee is about $28,800. So $28,800. That's our average fee as it sits right now. Most of it, like I said, is just coming from novation transactions. Just recently, I think it was last week, we closed, this was a wholesale transaction, $100,000 assignment.
Wow.
It was actually $101,000 and a few $100.
Crazy
and it was
numbers.
All done in 2 weeks. And that's what happens. Like, it's just a regular deal for us now. But that's what happens when you have a whole process in place and you have skills that you've developed over years of practice and calls and talking to people.
Right.
And we solved a massive problem for the homeowner. The first thing he said to us, he called in and he said, "My wife shot me. I need to sell my house." That's the first words that come out of his mouth. Yes. Because he talked to the AI assistant at first. She qualified him, and then she transferred him over, and I was the manager takeover. And that's the first thing that he said. My ex-wife shot me. I need to sell the house as soon as possible.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And then there was a whole drama with liens on the house. He inherited it from his father, and there was child support liens from Department of Revenue and all kinds of stuff that we had to resolve, but we got to the finish line. We made it happen.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
And that's really a great breakdown that you just gave us on novations. I don't think we've ever had a breakdown of the difference between wholesaling and doing the assignment versus a novation deal. And you want to talk about the number difference. That's a really big eye opener in what you can see out there doing novation deals. And like you said, there's a lot more people doing novation deals now than there were in the past. And a lot of people are on that because it's a great, it's another strategy. If you don't want to do the wholesaling, now you can do a novation. You want to do a novation, then maybe take it down. Like you have different strategies. And that's like what you talked about in the beginning, is having different strategies, different exit strategies for your deals, being able to solve problems.
Correct.
What about sub-2? What are you guys seeing out there with sub-2 deals and getting creative with those?
So sub-2s are important to know how to navigate and how to do. It's probably one of the most complicated transactions if you're going to do sub-2 transactions, just because there's just a lot of steps and elements that you have to put in place in order to not mess it up, and the paperwork and everything else. So we do probably about 10% of our deal flow, 10 to 15% of our deal flow is subject to transactions. And those are people who have little equity or no equity, or sometimes they're underwater. Most of the time, it's going to work out really well if they have a good interest rate. So if the interest rate is like 2, 3, 4%, we offer to take over their payments. Sometimes give them $2,000 to $5,000. Whereas if they were to sell it on market, they'd have to bring a check to the closing table. So subject to is a very simple concept, and you can simplify it in a way of thinking about it as buying a property subject to an existing lien, because a mortgage is a lien. So you can go and buy any property subject to a city lien, for example, right? And then clear that lien up later and still transfer title. So it's two components. So the mortgage is one document, and then the deed of the property is another document. So you transfer the deed from the seller to your name, and the mortgage stays in the seller's name. This is the important element, because a lot of people that lock up sub-2 deals don't disclose that to sellers. And I don't think that's the right way of doing it, because it's going to cause problems at one point or another. And it's going to lead back to the original person who put the deal together. It's important to make sure the seller understands everything in that transaction, and you properly disclose what are the risks and what are the benefits. Because the reality is, for people who are in that situation, that might be their only choice, and they might not have another choice. And the other choices go to foreclosure. So in either case, subject to is better than a foreclosure. And the property remaining on your name is better than a foreclosure. But it has to be disclosed to the sellers. So, disclosures is very important. We have like a 13 or 14-page sub-2 contract that we go over. Half of it is just disclosures to the seller to make sure they understand everything. And then that agreement itself is what serves as the stepping stone of them understanding the process and then drafting the rest of the paperwork, because you also have to get limited power of attorney on that property in case you need to resolve anything with the mortgage, third-party authorization so that you can also contact the mortgagee directly. And then you also need their personal information, like social security numbers and stuff like that, in case when you contact the mortgage company, they ask for information like that, you have it available. So there has to be a lot of trust involved in that transaction, so that's why it's a little more tricky. Right. And most people do it wrong. That's why there's so much negativity around it, is because most people just do it wrong. They don't do it correctly, and because of that, people get burnt. And then when people get burnt, that's when you hear the noise. Yeah. So we do sub-2 transactions. Matter of fact, one of the sub-2 transactions that we've done, actually this one is a seller finance, so we'll talk about it a little bit later. Yeah. Is here in Jacksonville that we turned into a pad split.
Okay, let's dive in on that, because I think those are great stories for people to know about. And that's another thing that you've been getting into is the pad split side. Walk us through that. What kind of deal did that look like with the seller finance, and then you were able to turn it into a pad split?
Yeah, so we had a lead that came in. This lead came from, and this was one of the first transactions that we did before we partnered with, Dominic Felix.
Yeah, Dom. So, shout out to Dom out there. Yeah, for sure.
So me and Luis Rodriguez, we used to be partners for about 2 years. And we were just hustling and doing deals. And at the same time, we were doing a bunch of other stuff. So I was building a new construction house, remodeling the fourplex. I was also a retail agent, wholesaling. So a lot of stuff juggling all at the same time. And then towards the end of 2021, we just decided to start scaling the wholesaling business and the real estate acquisitions. And that's kind of when we came into a meeting with Dom, and he was doing lead generation. So he had VAs, and those VAs were generating leads, and he was sending those leads to realtors to see if they could get a listing, and then he would get a fee from them, or a referral fee. And out of 15 people he sent it to, nobody ever got a deal. So he sent us one lead, and then we got a contract the first time.
Right.
And then he said he started sending more leads, and then we were the only people that were getting contracts. So he was like, I'm going to start sending all the leads to you. So that's how we started working together. And one of the leads that he sent us, it was a guy who was in Georgia. He inherited a property through a living trust. So luckily there was no probate.
No probate on that one. Okay. Sam's favorite.
Yes. He inherited a property, and he lived in Georgia, but the property was here in Jacksonville. Now, it was the best house in the worst neighborhood. It was in 08 off of, Leem Turner, like 3 or 4 houses away from a gas station. But it was a gorgeous 5,400 square foot house.
Wow.
On 1 acre of land.
Nice.
In the city, like
can't beat
find
that.
Yeah.
You can't find that.
So it came in as an inquiry. He wanted $600,000 for the house. It's like nothing sells there. The gas station would sell for $600,000 there. So when I looked at it first, I was like, this guy's just out of his mind. And then we sent one of our people to go take a video of the property, and he sent the video back. And because you couldn't see any pictures online, nothing. It was all covered but with trees.
Oh.
So he took the video. He sent the video, and the video was 8 minutes long. I was like, what were you filming there? And then I started looking. I'm like, oh, my God, this is like a castle. So it was built in 2003, and mostly everything was in great shape. It was just an old couple that lived there for their last 10 years of their life.
Wow.
And they
what a
passed
find.
away and gave it to their son. So I was like, I have to talk to this guy as soon as possible. So I jump on the phone, talk to him, explain that he's completely out of his mind with his pricing. Nothing in that area is worth that much money. And long story short, I talk him down to $215,000
Wow.
cash.
Wow.
So he accepts, and he wants to move forward. So that's like a $385,000 price reduction.
Yeah, no joke, right? Like getting him down to that number.
Yeah.
That's skill.
Yeah. So I talked to him about everything, and I say, you know what? I actually want to pay you more. And he says, why? And how much? And I say, well, I'd like to pay you $385,000 instead. He says, why would you want to do that? I just agreed to $215,000. And that's when I explained to him the concept of seller financing. And I say, instead of this house being just like a quick sale for you and you just get rid of it, let me pay you more money and just pay you monthly.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll give you a $30,000 down payment because he had to pay off some debt. I said, they'll pay off all your debt and they'll cut you a $2,000 check every month for the property.
Amazing.
Now, the key component here is when they don't ask you to pay them interest, don't offer it. So it's principal-only payments.
Amazing.
Right? So the house itself is probably worth in the realm of $450,000 at its best capacity. We got it for $385,000. So we still have a lot of equity. And then if I got hard money and then remodeled and then refinanced, I would have been in a worse off position. So when I did the math, I said, okay, well, I can pay this and I can just give him interest-free payments every single month. So I pay him $2,000. Mm-hmm. And then even the down payment, we raised $70,000 at 10%. And we now just pay our investor for the down payment and all the repairs that we had to put into the property, and we're zero money out of pocket.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we own the property. Now, one thing we did is we subdivided the lot, and we have 2 lots that are separate now, and we have offers on those lots for $25,000 each. So we technically could sell the lots, and we would, be able to pay off the the lender that we have, and then we just have absolutely no money in the deal at all. So the exit strategy with that house, though, is it wasn't going to work as a long-term rental. It wasn't going to work as an Airbnb because of the area. But it's a 5,400 square foot home.
It's big.
So we and it's like 13-foot tall ceilings, 3 stories.
Ideal mansion style.
Yeah. So we chopped it up. We made it into 9 bedrooms. And now it's the biggest pad split in Jacksonville, Florida.
That's so cool.
So it's bringing in roughly about $7,800 gross every month.
Wow.
And our payment with him, private money lender, utilities, internet, maintenance, management, all of that is about $4,000 after everything's paid off. So we're netting, close to $3,000 every single month.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
How can you complain about that, right? I mean, after you've taken care of all the expenses, a pure cash flowing property versus doing the long-term holds, and you're not even getting maybe half of that on a long-term hold, right? And so I'm sure we could dive in on so much with the pad split and what you and how you were able to figure out how to design it, make all the rooms. Are you guys doing tours on these kinds of things? So like if people are interested to learn more about how you got into this and how you're working through pad split deals or the common living idea, like people can find that?
So every time we launch a pad split, we kind of started this pattern where we do pad split open house or whatever you want to call it. And we just show other investors how we put the deal together, how we acquired it, how we structured it, how we designed it, and everything else. It's not our primary business. It's just something that we invest in, and we want cash flow on steroids.
Yeah.
Because regular rentals, I mean, we have a few of them too, but they just don't make as much money. So we try to figure out, okay, what can we get the most amount of cash flow? Right now, I haven't started this yet, but my next target is I want to buy a mobile home park.
Okay.
I just feel like that's the ultra top of investing right now.
Okay.
And it's a very interesting concept because I learned this by getting a lot of calls from people. And we advertise, obviously, like sell your house for cash. And we have AI that's reaching out to people and all that stuff. And a lot of people reach out and they either are selling a mobile home that they have, or they're trying to sell their house and go into a mobile home. And a lot of them. Now, what ends up happening is people that want to sell their mobile homes, they usually can't get any money for them if they don't own the land. So what they end up doing is they give the mobile home back to the community.
The park.
Or to the park.
Yeah.
And then that park doesn't want to really own it and rent it out. They want to sell it again on a lease option, or seller finance, because they want the person that's living there to own that.
It's a really hard model to find those kind of deals, right? Mobile home parks, all those things. It's like it's so niche to find those kinds of things out there. But I feel like if anybody's going to eventually get those, it's going to be you out there hunting them down, getting those deals. Love that, Sam. And Sam, just so we can all know, like, you've been able to do this with a really small team. And, for those that are watching, there's a lot of people that watch a lot of these investors. Like, 'cause when you think scaling, you got to hire again. You've really cultivated a nice small team, and that really works, right? And you like it that way. Talk to us a little bit about having those systems over scaling and how you were able to effectively build just a nice small team.
Yeah. So I'm a big proponent of small teams, and I think that efficiency is what matters the most. And hiring the right talent is what matters the most. Because if you're building an organization that you're trying to have an average Joe who can come in and do absolutely anything, and you just write every single thing out and they just have to follow the manuscript, it's just very dangerous. Because when market changes come in, it's very difficult for those large teams to pivot, because now you have to retrain a whole big staff, and you have to rewrite all the manuals and everything else, right? When you have a small team of very elite, talented people, it's a completely different economic, because now you have people who can do a mindset shift and change.
And I can tell you, I totally get having the small team versus the larger team when you can keep things really tight in case you guys got to learn some other stuff. Now you're going to have to train so many more. And it's finding the right people too for those roles that I'm sure is really a part of the big story, right? If you can find the right people to help you grow that small team, that's going to make it the most effective for you.
When you have the right processes, you have the right systems, and you have the right people, that's the combination that will allow you to scale without a big expenses. So when we built our organization, we try to only stick with people who are the most elite, and they know how to get the job done without you micromanaging them. So I think that's the key there. And then having strong systems and processes and KPIs, that's what makes the biggest difference.
Yeah. I love this. I think that's fantastic that you guys have been able to do it with that small team. I believe in the same thing. I don't want to grow it to be just massive. I want to keep it nice and tight and, a little bit at a time.
Right.
But you're able to keep that in a really good circle and keep that team growing together with you in that growth space. Sam, this has been awesome. Like, being able to sit with you and walk through these different things has been just amazing for me. And I know for a lot of people that are watching the episode, whether you're listening and watching, you're getting so much from Sam G and what he's talking about. And I got to share for people that don't know, I don't know which one it's on, which camera we're looking at, but for those that don't know, Sam and I actually got connected the first time through a probate deal. I think he found me, and it was around, I want to say it was like around Christmas time, and he found a great deal, needed one probate. And I remember it was a funny story because at the time, it was the first time you were working with me. Yeah. You've heard I can get these things done in like 2 to 3 weeks.
Yes.
And anytime in December, it's a tricky time, because that's when the judges are rotating out and a new judge comes in. And it was like right around when you sent the deal, I'm thinking, oh, like, no problem. I knew who was there. And then we found out the judge that was there was like rotated out and retired. And the new one was just getting, assimilated. And I feel like it was a great bonding moment with me and Sam, because it really showed that he knew what he was doing in investing, but he also understood the patience behind the probate process too, because you never know what gets thrown at you. And it got done. It got done. It was a wild story of like, new judge trying to figure everything out.
And then the heir wasn't even here in the States. He was in Japan. And we had to get him to American consulate in Japan to sign paperwork. And it took I think the whole process was 6-7 months.
Yeah.
Ended up being. But it just got done.
It was done.
It was crazy. And then switching judges and everything starting all over. It was just crazy. But yeah, thanks to you, man.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, no, thank you. And even a recent deal that we've been able to brainstorm on. And that's what's so rewarding working with investors like you, is that you understand of how do we maneuver and solve it? Maybe we got to do one probate, but then there's more that we got to get around, and how do we get around it? Or maybe how do we solve that for that issue? And it's awesome working together with you, man. What I do on my show, Sam, is I have a segment of signature questions, 3 signature questions I always ask the guests. Okay. And for you,
I didn't prep for them.
No prep at all. We don't, for those that don't know, we don't even give these questions to the guests beforehand. It's just all up here in my head. I've seen the questions on my phone so many times. It's like photographic memory. What is your favorite marketing strategy you've worked on?
Favorite marketing strategy? That's interesting. I would want to say it's building relationships, because when you work on one channel, say it's PPC or mailers or whatever, you constantly have to add to it, right? And you constantly have to work on it. But when you start building relationships, and it might not even be you who builds the relationship. So I partnered with somebody who's really good at building relationships is Lewis, my business partner. I'm probably not as good as him, but he gets all the right connections and he gets in the right rooms, and then he has a way with people where they want to bring him stuff back. So a lot of our transactions and a lot of our deals that we've done in the very beginning, they all came from his network and his relationships that he's cultivated over years by just helping people and helping real estate agents solve problems on houses they didn't want to list, or they didn't know how to list, or they didn't know whether they can list it or not. And then he would just bring those deals, I would solve them, and then we would make money. And the agents would make money, and they would bring him more deals and more deals. And it didn't cost us anything. It just cost, him spending time with those people and educating them. A lot of the times I don't have patience to like say the same things over and over. And that's where his strengths come in. And he's better than me at that. So that's why we're partners.
Yeah.
But I think that's a very phenomenal marketing strategy.
Yeah, that's another question that we usually have is, what do you look for in a partnership, right? And so, like, for you, what do you look for when trying to find a partnership or maybe a JV deal? Because not everybody that probably brings you a JV deal, you're saying, okay, it's a great deal, but what are we working with here? Right. What are you always looking for in those kind of partnerships?
Yeah, so JV deals obviously are a lot easier because it's a short-term transaction. Now, I've had one disastrous JV fix and flip, and I don't think I'll ever partner on fix and flips with equity partners again, especially on single-family houses, just because when there's just too many chefs in the kitchen, and especially too many votes in the kitchen, it just never ends up being good. So JV deals are simple. It's just the transaction has to make sense, and then you have to establish who's leading the transaction, because you can't have two voices. So if somebody's JVing with us and they believe in our process and they believe in our systems, and they believe we get the job done, we get high payables on a lot of transactions that we do. Like we have a community where we do weekly calls every Wednesday at 1 p.m. It's free for anybody. And we just show people how to acquire real estate, how to talk to sellers. We do live seller calls. I lock up a deal every second call that we do live. And we've had tremendous success with people who just bring us deals from those Zooms. And one of the deals that we've done, it was like a few months ago, it was a house in Texas. It was a $90,000 deal. And our JV partner got a little over $40,000.
Wow.
In one transaction.
Wow.
And all they had to do is introduce me to the seller.
Yeah.
So, but they knew exactly, they trusted our process. They knew exactly what we were doing. And they knew that all they had to do is just sit back and help if we asked them to help. And that's all. And they got rewarded extremely well for that. So I think it's just defining authority and defining who's going to lead the process, and the rest is just putting the transaction together. But as far as long-term partnerships, I think it's important where you know that you're partnering with somebody who's going to have long-term vested interest, meaning they're not going to, not put in the effort, and you're not going to feel like, hey, I'm doing more than you are. And at the end of the day, it all has to come down to not who works harder, but what value is brought to the table, right? Because I can work as hard as I want, but if I'm not getting results that my partner is getting, I'm not a valuable player. Even if I stay until 12 a.m. at night and come in at 8 a.m., it wouldn't make a single cent of difference. So the only thing that matters is results. So what are the other partners bringing as far as results to the table? That's the only thing that matters and counts, because everything else is just noise.
Yeah.
You know?
And I always believe in that, finding that synergy with, like, what are their strengths, weaknesses, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and being able to be come to terms with what that is, to be able to find complementary roles as well.
Right.
Like, if you're not good on the finances, but they are, or if you're good talking, being the salesperson, but they're not, there's always all these different quality boxes that you need to make sure. Cause like if you are both the same type of person, it might not work out.
You're going to clash.
Absolutely. Yeah. You don't want that. You want differences to be
Right.
able to mesh together, and opposites usually attract, right?
Correct.
So it really helps build that. But everything you're saying, great advice on finding partnerships out there. And got to get this from the sales guy himself. What is your best tip for sharpening your negotiation skills?
That's a good question, actually. That's a very good question. So, if I was to point just one thing out, I would say go back to your calls and listen to them. So record yourself, even if you're not going to post it. Record yourself. Have X amount of activity. Say it's 4 or 5 hours a day. And then go back to your own calls and listen to your own calls in full. And you'll be able to pick the mistakes better than anybody else that watches your videos. So it's as simple as that. It's just self-evaluation. Nobody does that.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah.
So that would make a huge difference, because you'll know exactly, why am I stumbling here?
Yeah.
Why am I saying,
Yeah.
Why am I saying this parasite words? I have to get this out of my system.
Yeah.
And the more you watch yourself, the more cognitive you'll be of those mistakes happening throughout the phone conversations.
Yeah, great tip.
Yeah.
Great tip. Because as you're saying that about going back and watching, whether you did great or not, I'm thinking of 3 things. I'm thinking of my marketing director, Taylor, telling me to go back and watch even these shows to see like how I do. Going back and watching speaking engagements, right? Because you can be on stage and do the same thing every time, but until you've watched how you are, how you're engaging, or what you're doing, do you really know what's working? Although I haven't gone back to do this, but now that you're saying it out loud, it just helps, right? And then thinking back in the day, played violin for 15 years. I remember my teacher saying, you should record yourself. You should go back and you should go watch it. So like, it doesn't matter what it is, but this is the best tip, because like if you go back and you watch like how you were, then you're going to be really self-conscious about, well, I don't want to do that again. Why did I say that? And like you said, you'll be able to catch yourself on the way that you're speaking and how you're conveying the message, right? And it matters that way.
Yeah.
Love that. Love that. Sam, this has been so much fun. I know everybody's gotten a ton of information from this one episode, and everybody knows when we do in person, we get really deep with these episodes. This is where all that magic happens, the in-studio podcast, and we're always honored to have guests like you on the show.
Let me give your viewers a gift.
Okay, let's go.
We talked a lot about sales. We talked a lot about talking to sellers, motivated sellers, and everything else, right? So let's do this. Everybody who wants to know exactly what to say on these phone calls, how to say it, I will send you a PDF copy of my acquisition script. I wrote it all myself. I was on an 8-hour flight, and I went in and I just made this absolutely the most dangerous acquisition script ever.
Okay.
If you can't get a deal by just reading that script to the sellers, I'll give you a $50 gift card. No joke.
I love this.
Literally. So I will give that, I'll send that to you. You can attach it to this episode, and then people can go and have it for absolutely free.
Well, first
There's
of
no
all,
commitments.
Thank you, Sam. That's perfect. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to make sure on this episode at the top of the screen, Michael, my producer, he's going to already have the QR code. So scan the QR code at the top of the screen right there. That's where you're going to get the PDF of this killer acquisition guideline that Sam G's providing everybody out there. That's a great give for people. Go right. The QR code's right there. We're going to leave it on the screen to make sure everybody gets it, because his offer's out there for everybody. And for those that are trying to find Sam, or, you know, if you're reading through the script and you want to find out more information, you got all of his contact info through the QR, the chyrons that Mike's been showing throughout the show. Sam, this has been so fun. I'm always blessed and grateful when guests like you are taking the time out of your day to come here, come on the show, come in the studio, get the whole experience, be a part of the team. And we get to work on probates and all that crazy stuff out there. It's always so fun because we're always on the phone, but never like in person. It's like always different when you get that vibe in person.
Absolutely.
So warm. What we do for our in-person episodes is we always have a t-shirt and a mug. We have swag for you guys.
Nice.
So here we got the mug for Sam, the Al Nicoletti Show mug. So that's for you. Now you can talk to sellers, be on the phone. You got a probate deal, then you'll be talking to them.
I'm going to pull it up as soon as they say, oh, my parents died and I got this house. Okay.
That'd be a whole reel, right?
Yeah.
Love it. And for you, we always have an Al Nicoletti Show t-shirt. Go. Yeah. And we got the logo on the back. So
nice.
Yeah, that's for you, man. Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Look at that. Awesome. Perfect.
Nice, man.
Yeah. We love having guests like you come on and do this. And it's always a blast. And I'm always seeing what you're doing out in the community, whether it's through the Yellowbird community, whether it's doing live events and putting things out there for the local investors. Keep doing that. Keep going out there and keep sharing your stuff. Again, for people that don't know or haven't seen Sam's stuff, follow him on Instagram, follow him on Facebook, add him on Facebook. You'll get tons of values from the videos. There's always so much you can learn. There's only so much you can learn on one episode, but then you got to go on social media and find out more about what's going on. So, Sam, this has been a blast, man. Thank you. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate you. As I do at the end of my show, final words, final thoughts on anything that you want to leave the audience with. We'll leave it to you for this camera. Final words, final thoughts, Sam G.
All right. Well, Al, it's been an amazing show. I'm very, very happy that you invited me. It's been an honor to sit here and talk real estate with you. The first time when I got to Jacksonville, and I was given a speech, I think it was like one of Jackie's events, and I was given a speech on just market trends and local market trends in real estate. I think it was just beginning of the virus, and everybody was super scared. Nobody was doing as many deals, and it was just like a contraction period of time. And you were out there with a lot of energy, giving out your QR code business cards, and that's where I met you. You know, that's the first time that I've seen you, and people were flocking to you. So I think it's very important that in all markets, whether there's tariffs, whether there's a virus, whether there's high interest rates, whatever it is, people can do deals. And it's just a matter of, are you actually prepared to overcome the challenges that are in front of you? Are you prepared to adapt and work a little bit differently and not use the exact same things that everybody else has been using for the last 5, 10, 20 years? Mm-hmm. So I see you doing that a lot. I see you adapting with the markets. I see you doing, I don't know how many cases you do a month now. 200, 300, 400.
We're on pace for almost 400 to 500 this year.
Wow. Yeah. So, I mean, and you still remember our cases, which is crazy to me.
Yes.
You know, maybe this is the one guy that won't be replaced by AI, but we'll see. We'll see. But the reality is everybody can do deals. It's just a matter of putting yourself in the right mindset and in the right systems and processes where you can thrive, adapt in absolutely any market. Any storm, anything that happens in the markets, it could be overcome and it could be adapted to, because the reality is whatever you're dealing with, everybody else is dealing with. And everybody else's first thought is, how do I give up and how do I get out of this? And how do I get into something else? Because the grass is always greener on the other side, but it really isn't.
Sam, love it. Great tips, great advice, great final words, final thoughts. Thank you so much again for coming on this episode. Really appreciate it, man. Great value to the community out there. And keep it up. Keep doing what you're doing. And we love to see it, brother.
Let's go.
You got it, man.
Get some deals.
All right, everybody, you heard it right there from Sam G himself. If you missed any of this jam-packed episode, go back, watch it. You got to go back to all the great golden nuggets that Sam G was talking about, from sales to pad splits to creative finance to all the things that are out there that you need to focus on. Tons of value in this episode. And make sure you go and follow Sam G on Instagram, Facebook, follow his videos, and we're going to put up that QR code one more time at the top of the screen. That is his killer acquisition spreadsheet. He talked about it. You don't want to miss it. Scan that QR code. You'll find it right there. And of course, scan the other QR code. That's where you're going to find all the content on the Al Nicoletti Show, whether it's on the podcast, the season 1 through season 6, or stuff on probates, quiet titles, partitions, and everything on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And find us on the road on Apple and Spotify. We will see you all next Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. Thank you all for tuning in. Have a great night, everybody. Take care.